Finally guys, it's peak of the Airsoft season and there are dozens of opportunities to play outside. Best time of the year here in Central Europe if you ask me. But what also happens when you play Airsoft more frequently is that you see field marshals with the craziest of chrono standards when measuring your replica's energy. For example, using a questionable low BB weight to chrono the Joules, or, even worse, measuring only the speed of the BB in feet or meters per second. In this video, I'd like to show you in cooperation with my sponsoring partner Begadi why only the exact BB weight is suitable for the chrono that also will be used in game, and why everything else will cause deviation which can be quite significant. Okay, in order to understand why different BB weights can cause different energy outputs on the very same Airsoft replica, let's think in this easy picture of an AEG. Imagine your cylinder is a tank of fuel you need to accelerate a car. The car itself is represented by the BB. It's a relatively lightweight BB of 0.25 gram, so we can take a lightweight car such as my old Miata as a reference. Our inner barrel in this picture represents a ramp we want to jump over with the car. The moment the car loses contact to the ramp and starts the jump is the moment our BB leaves the barrel. Here our chrono measures the muzzle energy. Inside the cylinder, the air is compressed by the spring and the piston, so it represents the engine. It converts the air, which is our fuel, into a directional force pushing the car or the BB all the way down the ramp, or the inner barrel. So what happens now is the car burning the fuel inside the tank while accelerating on the ramp. The tank is almost empty when the ramp ends, so the car was able to build up speed all the way. Let's say it has a velocity of 106.7 meters per second at this point, in this example. The measured speed of the car, or the BB, and its mass of 0.25 grams can be put into this formula, so you get the kinetic energy, which is measured in joules. So far so good, right? But what will happen if we exchange the BB weight, and only the BB weight, for a much heavier one now? Well, it's like we take a much heavier car, such as my all-wheel drive Pajero, but keep all the other factors as they have been before. A few things will occur at the same time now. First, the fuel will be not enough for the heavy car, because it was just enough for the little one. Maybe you experienced this from your own car. Heavy cars need more fuel. As a consequence, we didn't have enough fuel to speed up all the way until the ramp ends. Also, and this is where the picture becomes a little weird, we did not change the engine, which is the spring in the Airsoft replica, so the heavy Pajero has to be accelerated by the small Miata engine. The consequence is a much slower velocity at the end of the ramp, or the inner barrel. It's only at 76.2 meters per second now. So, even if the mass of the car did increase, the kinetic energy is a lot lower in this second part of the example. Spoken in Airsoft terms, the air volume ratio between cylinder and inner barrel is too small, so the joules on the heavier BBs are decreasing. Now comes the part where things begin to get a little complicated. In a different replica type, the energy output on increasing BB weights will not get lower, but it will get higher. Imagine what happens when we give the cars a lot larger fuel tank, for so much propellant that it is even more than enough for accelerating on the ramp. On GBB or HPA replicas, and on some spring-powered sniper rifles as well, we are not that much limited by a static small AEG cylinder volume, so we can bring way more propellant than we actually need. Reasons for this are the variable dwell settings on an HPA and the gas expansion rate inside GBB replicas. But going deeper here would make the video way too long. And on a spring sniper? Well, the cylinder there is just way larger than on an AEG. As a result, the heavy BB/car will be accelerated on its entire way down the barrel/ramp. It still will be slower than the lighter one, but this difference is most likely enough for the heavy BB to overtake the lighter one in terms of kinetic energy, because of its higher mass. It's just a thing of how the logic of the Joules formula works. And this phenomenon is what people call Joule Creep in the world of Airsoft. Don't worry, I will demonstrate it to you with 3 different replicas later on. But for a proper test, of course, we need the right material. This is why I asked my sponsoring partner Begadi if they could send me their new Pocket Chrono, of which I actually think it's the best chrono I have held in my hands before, minus one tiny downside. Additionally, Begadi provided me with a wide range of Lonex BBs in different weight variations, so we have all the freedom we need for this test. But let me tell you first why I really like this chrono so much. It all begins with the dimensions. The Pocket Chrono is really small. So small you easily can take it to the field while not claiming too much space inside your backpack, pockets or whatsoever. The chrono is 76mm long, 55mm wide and 41mm high, while being super lightweight at the same time. Only 90 grams are barely more than nothing. When you turn the chrono on, you see the device tests its 2 light sensors for measuring passing BBs by itself for proper function. One more cool thing I noticed was this Pocket Chrono has 6 slots for saving BB weight presets. The other chronos I tested before only had 3 slots maximum, so with 6 it's a lot easier to switch between weights frequently. There also is a memory function, which displays the last 120 shots. I personally do not use this very often, but for analytics and comparison this can be quite helpful. The other functions, such as auto turn off, backlight adjustment or switching between caliber size or unit metrics, are standard for modern chronos nowadays. But it's important to note the Pocket Chrono has all of those on board. What I also really like is that this chrono finally has a USB-C port and a rechargeable internal battery. No more switching AA batteries or broken old-fashioned chargers anymore. With this one, you can use modern USB-C cables. I guess everyone should own nowadays. Nice side fact, you also can charge and operate the chrono with an external power bank. Very practical for a small unit like this. Oh wait, did I tell you about the price? It's only 29,90 €. The most affordable chrono I know, with a definitely best price-performance ratio. Here comes the only little downside I noticed. The Pocket Chrono does not come with a thread on the bottom side of the hull for bipod attachment, as it is the case on larger units. So if you want to mount it stationarily, you will have to improvise. But because it is so small, you easily can use a smartphone clip or something similar for this. Actually, no really big problem. Okay, enough about the chrono now, let's get back to the Joule Creep topic. I thought it would be a good idea to have an equal or almost equal difference in weight between the BBs we are going to test. So Begadi sent me a bag of each 0.25 gram, 0.36 gram and 0.45 gram to shoot on different replicas and see the actual effect on the kinetic energy output. I used the Lonex BBs myself for many years now and can tell they are flawless in terms of finish quality and accuracy, so they should be more than suitable for the test. If you want to see how your personal replica performs on different BB weights, but you don't want to buy a full bag of each category, you also could test this sample package, in which you get about 50 BBs of each popular weight between 0.2 gram and 0.4 gram. This actually can save you a lot of money, because you learn which weight works best for you and you want to order a higher amount of in the future. Let's begin with my Lonex M4 AEG. I shoot 5 BBs of each weight through the chrono and bring the average chrono output in comparison afterwards. On 0.25 gram, we get values of around 1.45 joules. This is just below the typical energy limit for semi-automatic replicas here in Germany. With the 0.36 gram BBs, we already notice the energy is decreasing by about 0.1 joules, a clear indicator for not having enough air volume for this weight category. The 0.45 gram BBs underline this finding, as the energy drops further into the 1.2-ish area. Comparing the results, we get a nice practical demonstration of what I explained earlier in the video. The AEG cylinder is just too small to accelerate the 0.36 gram and the 0.45 gram BBs down the entire barrel, so we lose energy when adding BB weight. Let's check how this will change on my G36 GBB replica. While 0.25 gram BBs result in a chrono reading of 1.34 up to 1.39 joules, we reach the lower 1.40s on the 0.36 gram BBs. The effect is not huge, but the more BB weight we add, the more energy we will get out of it. See what happens on the 0.45 gram BBs. We clearly see the expanding green gas inside the way shorter barrel brings us the opposite effect compared to the AEG. The G36 has a notable Joule creep of almost 0.2 joules in the BB range of this test. Last but not least, it's time to check what will happen on my spring sniper build. It does have a quite long barrel, but also a way larger cylinder than the AEG tested before. The reference energy on 0.25 gram is somewhere between 2.39 joules and 2.46 joules on this one. Raising the BB weight to the 0.36 grams, the energy again is increasing, up to 2.54 joules in peak. The story continues on the 0.45 gram BBs, on which we get maximum values of up to 2.59 joules. Although the Spring Sniper build has a much longer barrel compared to the G36, the Joule Creep behaves basically the same here, with slightly smaller energy steps between the different BB weights. I added the actual speed of the BBs here for you, so you can also see the heavier BBs still are much slower compared to the lighter ones. But combined with their higher mass, it's enough to result in higher overall joules, just as I tried to explain in the beginning. I think the previous results clearly show why only a measurement of in-game used BBs will tell how hard a player's replica really shoots. Using a static or very low BB weight completely ignores the fact that players are using very different types of airsoft replicas, which is at least unfair and could in the worst case result in injuries, when people underestimate the power of their pew-pews when loading much heavier BBs than they have initially been checked on. Why only measuring the velocity of a BB is even worse should also be clear now, as the mass of the BB is a critical value when it comes to calculating the kinetic energy. Velocity alone says nothing about how much a hit actually hurts. Of course, I'm curious about how the marshals in your area tend to use the chrono as well. Are they already measuring with in-game BB weight, or did you experience some major flaws in this aspect? Feel free to comment down below this video, and if you like, see you on the next one. So long, have a good one.